This is Martin Perdomo, the Elite Strategist, and you're listening to Latinos in Real Estate Investing Podcast. And today I got special guest, Jerome Maldonado. Jerome is a real estate investor, developer. He's an author of 2 books, Own Your Dreams and How to Develop and Redevelop Real Estate. He's been in this game for a long time, since 1998. He's got his contractor's license. Jerome, welcome. Bienvenido, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Martin, thank you, man. Really appreciate you having me here. I'm excited for today's podcast.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited. We were talking a little bit off the air, and you're doing a lot of exciting things. And I want to get into that stuff. First and foremost, sir, how did this journey of real estate start? I know you own a bunch of stuff, and you're doing a lot of exciting things. But before we tell people about all the things that you've done and all the exciting stuff, you're redeveloping your building from ground up, multifamily, you have a construction company, you're doing over 600 is what you said earlier to me, over 600 projects outside of your own projects. But yeah, I mean, that's exciting stuff. Yeah, how did this all begin? Tell us, where did it start?
Well, since this is Latinos in Real Estate Podcast, I'm going to go way back. You know, I come from a traditional Hispanic Latino family. My parents grew up not speaking any English, going to school and being discriminated against because they didn't speak English. And so at a young age, they didn't teach us how to speak Spanish. They taught us how to go out and work hard, and they didn't want us to be discriminated against. So I come from a traditional Hispanic Catholic family. Went to Catholic school. My parents worked hard, worked jobs. My dad was an accountant. My mom, when we were young, drove school buses and got into bookkeeping and other stuff. And then they just instilled hard work and work ethic into us. So I come from a family where it's about working hard and putting your head down and getting educated. So I was taught the original go to school, get a good education deal. And I was in pharmacy school when I was right out of college, and when I was right out of high school, I went to pharmacy school a few years in, and I was wrestling. And I'll tell you that my 3rd year into the pharmaceutical program, I decided that I was going to make a little change that summer, and I wanted to go work in a gym. And I answered a health and fitness ad, actually went in and saw a multi-level marketing company, and I got involved in sales. I loved it. I was selling water filters and nutritional products in 1993, 1994, at a time when nobody had any type of environmental awareness. And I plummeted that company for 4.5 years. And in 2.5 of those 4.5 years, I was horrible at it. Was extremely horrible. What drove myself over $100,000 in debt. And then finally, 2.5 years into it, I finally figured out the business and I started making some money. And part of it was of that journey. I started leasing desk space to people that were coming in looking at the company, because we're running out of training centers. And I didn't think of this as real estate, but it was small. It was a small introduction to real estate for me, not even knowing. And I started leasing desk space for $250 for a half a desk, or $500 a month for a full desk. And that's actually was my turning point in making money, just to be able to put food on the table in those years. In 1997, the FTC came in. They did a big pivot in the industry, and a lot of companies didn't make the change, including there was a big sector of Amway, us, a company called Manatech that went out. There was a bunch of us. There was a bunch of network marketing companies got put out of business. Anyways, I landed up back home, and I landed up not home with my parents, but back in Albuquerque, and I landed up going back to school to finish my last year of my education. And in that time, I went in to go get my contractor's license on accident. Really, it was to help my brother-in-law, and he didn't show up for the test. I did, and I got my license. One thing that network marketing taught me was how to sell, how to market, and how to build relationships. And I'll tell you, Martin, that was one of the biggest takeaways from that entire company. That set me up for everything I've done thus far in my life. That journey of direct sales and network marketing was priceless. I didn't know anything about construction. I had read enough success books about like Think and Grow Rich and some of the old classics that most people are aware of. And if they're not aware of, they need to read them. And I was taught to go employ the efforts of other people that had talents that we didn't have. And so in 1998, when I started my construction company, I knew how to market. I went to town and I started marketing a business And I put my brother-in-law and all the guys I used to labor for when I was in college. I put them to work doing drywall, metal stud framing, and I started doing concrete work. Concrete was way more profitable, so we still do concrete today. We run millions of dollars in revenue. The 600 projects that you're talking about are client-based projects, either government or commercial-based projects, or residential driveways, foundations, and walkways that we still run full-time crews every single day. In fact, I got 7 projects going on right now with crews out there as you and I speak right here on this podcast, plus our own undertakings. And we have a lot of them, our real estate projects that have scaled now to this year. We have over $70 million in projects on the books. So exciting year, 2021.
That's amazing, brother. That's an amazing story. You know, you talked about how you were raised. All of us Latinos were raised that way. Right? We have a big Latino following here. Most of us. It doesn't matter. We have all kind of listeners that listen to us. But you know, we're a Latino family, and most Americans just work hard, go to school, work hard. They don't teach us work smart, right? So when did that turning point happen for you? You know, you said I guess it was when you started renting those cubicle spaces or those desk spaces.
Yeah.
Something similar years ago too.
I think I do both, Martin. I work smart, but I don't know that there'll ever be a day in my life that I don't work hard. And I think that I talked to Bobby Castro and Eric Castro this weekend. I was up at Driven, and you know, those guys just their company valuations at $5 billion. These guys started from nothing. Bobby exited at a $1 billion purchase price for his company, $1.6 billion valuation. And when I sat and I talked to these guys, there was kind of a consensus in the room when we sat down at that dinner table on Friday night. And the consensus was, you know, people say work smart, not hard, and that's when you get wealthy. What we kind of consensed together with a lot of people that work billions of dollars and mega millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, was that it kind of takes both. You know, like I don't know if there'll be a day that I don't work hard. Yes, we all work smart, and you have to. You don't get wealthy not working smart, but you have to be in the game, right? And when you're in the game, you're working hard. There's no and ifs or buts about it. So I think having both those qualities and understanding both those qualities are advantageous to every listener on here. I mean, you can't only work smart and not hard. Now, there is some luck involved, and there is that exception. But unless you're that 1/100th of 1% of that very lucky few, for the rest of us, Martin, we got to work our asses off. I mean, it comes with the territory. And yes, we work smart, we pivot, we move, but we've worked hard and consistently over the last 28 years that I've been doing this.
Yeah, I heard some very wise man, you know him as well. I was studying with him this week, Pete Cunningham, and he said something from the stage. He said, "You can get lucky and get rich, but you can't get lucky and stay rich."
That's right. That is right. Yeah, they say that most people who win the lottery within 5 years are in a worse position than they were before they won the lottery, because there's a mental game that you have to graduate to as you generate wealth. There's a lot of psychology behind money, and money has to be respected, not loved, respected. It's a machine, and when you learn the game and the machine of wealth and money, you learn how to respect it over the course of time. The way money works, the way money can work for you, the way it has to be positioned, the tax laws. There's a lot of ins and outs as far as how money works. And when you get it overnight, I mean, I'm still learning every day, Martin. I mean, there's stuff. I mean, I sat there captivated talking to Bobby Castro and them. And then I sat down with my buddy Eric, who's doing NFTs and all this stuff that's entering the market, the changing, evolving economy, you know, with electronic currencies and how we can take advantage of it in real estate. It evolves, right? So it isn't something that when capital falls on your lap, that's a migration of education that comes over us over the course of a lifetime, and the relationships and the people that you surround yourself with that actually help counsel you informally into teaching you how to utilize and exercise and invest your wealth. because you watch the successful things that they are also doing. And it's those friendships of colleagues that are also running the same path you are, I think that truly help us. So there is a psychology behind wealth creation and keeping that wealth long-term.
That is awesome. I mean, like I was telling you, I have a close friend, a wealthy, prominent individual, and I talked to you about some investments she recommended, and it just we're all kind of the same network. And you're like, yeah, those guys, a bunch of stuff with those guys, which you're saying, like your surroundings, right? I always talk about, I mean, you're the 5 people you surround yourself with, right? When you're talking. And that's one of the things I love about this podcast is that I get to have people like you here, and I get to interact with you and learn from you, as well as my audience gets to learn from you as well. Which I want to pivot to. I want to pivot to the beginning of time, right? Because we have a lot of people that listen to our podcast that are trying to get into this game, or they're just starting and they're trying to figure out how do they do it. You mentioned one very important thing. You kind of skated around it a little bit, mindset, right? Tell us about that. Tell us about that first deal, right? You were lucky, in a way, you were lucky and blessed to have been in sales. I started my career in sales too, but you started in a tough industry, man. Multi-level marketing is tough, especially in those days, Jerome. In the 90s, it was. We didn't have technology. We didn't have all the stuff we have now. I remember going to the Amway things, and so it was tough in those days. It was very different than what it is today. So tell us about that experience of your first deal, your first real real estate deal, right? How was that? How did you graduate? And again, you were blessed because you had all of these books presented to you. You had all of these people telling you have to read these books. That's how multi-level marketing works. They understand something fundamentally that they teach us about mindset. That's so. Tell us about that journey for you, because you come from work hard, go to school, get a job, retire, Social Security. Hey, that's where we both come from, right? That's what we were taught.
We come from, mindset's huge. And I'll tell you, my mindset wasn't any different than anybody else's, other than I was driven to do something bigger. I looked around me, and I came from a family that when I saw people that had a fluency, my parents would tell me, Jerome, don't show off. Those people, we're not those type of people, I would hear. Or like, I wanted to go to a nice restaurant and my parents would tell me, and I'll just say it the way they said it, those restaurants are for white people. They're not for people like us. And I used to sit back and go, okay, well, why do they get to enjoy it and why don't I? Like, if God made us equal, shouldn't I be able to enjoy the better things in life? And still to this day, it's funny. My dad, just like 2 years ago, I sent him with a $200 gift certificate to Ruth Chris, not the highest end restaurant in the world, but a good restaurant. And I sent him. I gave that to him for his birthday. I sent him and my mom over there. And even to this day, they still have that mindset. I said, how was dinner after, a couple of days later when I spoke to him? And they said, he goes, yeah, it was nice. There was a bunch of rich people, a bunch of attorneys and rich people. He goes like that. And I just kind of chuckled because I knew what he meant. And it was the same upbringing, the same mental setbacks that most average people have. And not to take anything away from my parents, because I love them and respect them. And they came from, they came from the mere means of poverty, and they created success in their life. But like my parents told me, they said, Jerome, our job was to do better than our parents. Your job is to do better than us. And as well as I thought my parents had done at a young age, which they did, they provided for us. They worked their tails off to put us through parochial and private education. There was a difference, right? And at the time when I was a kid thinking about that, I thought, oh my God, how do I do better than my parents did? They provided so well for us. And then little did I know, there was so much opportunity on this earth. And so when I got involved in network marketing, I educated myself and doors opened, my eyes opened, the blinders got taken off. And I thought, oh my word, how do I consume all of this? And the mental challenges that newbies are looking at it, the same thing that we all do. But I'll tell you, one of the things that my wife prides me on today is how mentally strong I am. I don't pay attention to distractions. I was taught at a young age to focus on my goals. And I don't pick my head up. things in life don't distract me. I stay focused on what I'm doing. I don't listen to outside people unless they're people that I truly respect and they should be listened to. But there's very few people on this earth that deserve to be listened to in regards to business, because there's only a handful of people that are really out there doing some stuff. So you got to be careful who you allow to enter your brain and your mind when it comes to mindset and so forth.
Man, that is so powerful, brother. That is so powerful. I know you said you wrote, you co-authored that book, Own Your Dreams, with Les Brown.
Yeah.
So that's a real powerful mindset guy there. When my early mentor, they listened and followed, so I studied all of his stuff. But I got another question for you, my friend.
Yeah.
What's one thing you've done that's giving you the most success? What do you attribute your success to? What's the one thing that you can say you've done that has given you your absolute most success? Highest return.
I contribute it mostly to family, my drive to have family, even at a young age. Much when I didn't have family, I remember thinking to myself when I was in multi-level marketing. I remember sitting back thinking, "Damn, what type of good woman is going to want a loser like me if I can't pay off my debt, and how am I ever going to have a family and kids with somebody that's respectful when I can't even get my own act together?" Right. So that really drove me at a young age was being able to say, okay, because, as Latinos, we sit back and like, it's the man's house, right? Like you go in and you're the man of the house, you protect your family, you do things, right? To provide. And that's just the way we were raised, right or wrong. That was the way we were raised. And so in my mind, I thought, okay, I really hadn't earned the respect of a good woman when I hadn't been able to, I can't even provide for myself, right? So that drove me. And then as I got into a relationship as I started having success, and I think that was a limitation because I didn't date much when I was going through all of this. I really stayed focused on my journey. And really, when I finally started doing okay, I wouldn't even say well. When I started doing okay, I was like, okay. And I started dating again. And then I met my wife, and my kids drive me. I was driven to be able to get to a financial point where I could spend time and raise my kids. The recession just happened to hit that year in 2008 when my son was born. So God had a different plan for me. So I went back to work hard, and I haven't stopped. And my kids see me work hard. I try to find a fine balance between work and family. But really, family drives me. Right now, I'm really working to have full passive income. No, I don't want to deal with the day-to-day business of that we deal with right now with our construction company. My kids go to college, because I promised my wife, look, we're going to be 100% mobile by the time they go to college. Wherever they go, we can go have houses. Wherever they live, we'll have houses. We'll also live interim, and we want to be 100% mobile. So that motivates me, to continue to finish up the hard work of passive income that I've been working on for so many years.
Let me ask you a question, brother. You dated around statement you made, and I don't want to get your perspective on it. You said you as Latino,
Yeah.
we are raised to, as men, hey, it's our job to take care of our families, do the right thing. How do you, as you've evolved, have those values changed for you as a man?
Yeah, they have. I have a different respect for everything. Man, woman, doesn't really matter. I've ran into so many successful women. My wife is strong. When I met her, she was a young lady in college. She was a cheerleader. Hadn't really worked in a professional setting. I've evolved her into an entrepreneur as well. She owned a dance school. She's helped me when we owned all our Subway stores. She ran them. And even though she hasn't went through the mental education that I have, so I still see a lot of her mental setbacks. But man, she's a strong woman. She even stronger than she believes she is. I would put her up against about 95% to 99% of women out there. She's just strong. She can run this household. And so yeah, my mindset has definitely changed. The respect level that I have for men and women. In fact, I even tell people some of the best people in construction, the best builders, are not men; they're women. Yeah, I do. I have a different respect. Anybody who can wrap their head around the game can do this. Man, woman, purple, green, black, it doesn't matter. But yeah, my mindset has changed tremendously going through this game and watching everything evolve over the last 28 years.
Oh, man. Let me ask you this. Why real estate? You have other businesses, and we talked a little bit off air. You invest in businesses, right?
Yeah.
You're a smart guy. You're a really intelligent guy, obviously, right? Why construction and real estate?
So construction, because I had no idea there was as much cash flow in it as there is. It's been our cash flow. It's been our bread and butter. That's why construction has been good, and it's brought us in a lot of high volume income over the years. Real estate was an accident, Martin. I never knew it was going to provide for us. Didn't know the benefits of it. I went in naive to it. I bought a rental house. I just wanted to park my money in an asset that I had something tangible, and it literally started with that mindset. The commercial side of it really started by my neighbors taking me to court to kick me out of my house, not kick me out, but kick my business out of my house because it was not zoned for commercial use. And I had work trucks and equipment and employees going there. And they took me to court to get me kicked out of there. And so out of the sheer requirements and need to go into commercial real estate, I needed a place to park my equipment. I bought a retail center. And that's where the desk renting came into place. I thought, why the hell would I go rent a place when I can buy a place and rent it to other people, let them pay for it for me, the same way I would rent an office, lease desk space, and let them pay my lease for me. I had a desk rent, and I still had extra money at the end of the month to live and put food on the table at a time when I didn't understand the multi-level marketing game yet. And so I took that exact same concept. I said, I'm going to buy a building bigger than I need. I'm going to partition it. I'm going to lease it to other businesses, and I want to be rent-free. I want to be in the exact same position I am today, running the business out of my house, rent-free, when I buy the building. And I went in with just that simple concept. And I bought an 8,000 square foot building. It had 5 units, or I made it into 5 units. Dumped a little bit. I bought it under a owner finance contract where the owner financed it for me. I had bad credit, so I couldn't buy it myself on my own credit. I did a 3-year call on it, which means that in 3 years, I owed them 100% of the money. So it gave me 3 years to fix my credit and stabilize the real estate. And so I leased it. I leased it out. And not only did I lease it out, I parked my business there for about 8 years. And then we outgrew it. And I did the same thing, bought another piece of real estate. But from the success of that one building, within 6 months, I stabilized that asset, and it cash flowed. It paid for itself, and I had extra money. It paid for my health insurance. It paid for my life insurance. And I still have those policies today. So that building not only paid for my real estate and my business, but it paid for $1 million whole life insurance policy that I still own today for my family. And it paid for my health insurance. And it's still, that building, I still own it. That thing's made me over $2 million in passive income in over 20 years, 8,000 square feet. Just from the success of that one, 6 months later, I go, you know what? This was pretty damn cool. I'm going to do this again. I bought another old building. And then like entrepreneurs think, we're always thinking big outside of the box. I started thinking, well, shit, if I can buy these like this, why don't I start building them? And so I started building them. And at that time, I had just tried building one house. And so in the early 90s, I said, in the late 90s, early 2000s, I said, let me buy a piece of land. Let me build a house. And so I built a house. I sold it, made a profit. Then I thought, well, if I could build a house, why can't I build a building? I have the license for it. And so we went to work and we built a retail center. And I built another one, then an office condo. And then I did Perlade. And then 2008 hit, and I almost lost everything. But I didn't, but I got close to losing everything. And I had a lot of projects going on, developments, a retail complex, an office complex, and a subdivision. And I had my day-to-day business we were running when the recession hit. Took us about 5 years to clean that up, but it only took us about 6 months to pivot. And in that 6-month pivot, man, that 6-month pivot when we went to Phoenix and we started buying distressed real estate out there turned into everything that we have today. It's been a blessing in disguise for sure.
Beautiful. So what's your biggest takeaway from 2008? What's your biggest lesson when you almost lost everything? What's your biggest takeaway? What would be the advice you would give? So the 2-part question, your biggest takeaway there, and what would be the advice you would give to your younger self when you started in real estate? So there's a younger version of you listening to you right now on this podcast. What's the advice you give to that younger version of you today?
When you do finally start making it, right? For those of you guys who are making it, and you're pounding your chest right now saying, I'm a badass. Because that was me. I was saying, I'm a badass. The truth, I used to think that statement, the more money you make, the more money you make, came into truth. Like, hey, the more money I make, I just keep, this money just working for me. I'm a badass. I'm going to keep making a shitload of money. And that was the attitude I had. um, I was humbled. And so what I tell people is, don't think you're invincible. Life has a funny way of sharing with you its circumstances. You can be a hard worker, Martin, like we talked about, but when you're subjected to external circumstances that are outside of your control, they can bring you to ruin if you don't set yourself up correctly. So, one, methodical investing, thinking about what you're doing all the time, your exit strategies, what your end goal is, and having multiple exit strategies is super important. That's one thing that I've learned is never go into a deal where when you're going into it, don't go into it thinking this is my income. I own this exit strategy. This is my domain, because he has a funny way of shaping you back, slapping you back into place. You have to go in with a realistic outlook on things, and you have to be able to be wise in the way that you invest and say, okay, if worst case scenario, if all shit hits the fan, what's my exit? Like, what's my end goal? What options will I have, and what will it look like? And you have to be able to reverse engineer your exit strategies before you enter them. And if you can do that, that is what the biggest thing that I learned in 2008 is making sure that I don't get emotional. No purchase is emotional. It has to be 100% logical. It has to make sense. If it doesn't pencil, you don't buy it. And what I mean by pencil, you have to be able to underwrite it. The numbers have to make sense. You got to have an exit strategy. And you have to practice with wise conservancy, where you can go in, and even if you have to say no, you have to know when to say no to a deal, and then know when you got a deal that you want to run with, because of the circumstances that you'll be okay with if the worst case scenario happens to you.
I love that. I love that. That think multiple times. You have to be able to think and strategize and think ahead, right? That's what successful investors do. And again, it's just so much. There's so much consistency in the thinking of successful people. Like I said to you, I just spent 4 days with Mr. Cunningham.
Yeah.
And one of the things they taught us, and I did the 4-day MBA with him, great course, recommend it to anyone that wants to really elevate their level of business and really understand business. One of the things he said, something that you just said, is your ability to think. You got to spend think time. How much think time do you spend? How much time does Jerome spend pensando, just sitting down, quiet think time and saying, okay, here's what I got, here's what's going on, here's all the stuff I got going on, here's my next move, and what does that look like for you, brother? How much time do you spend doing that? A week or a month or whatever?
I think it's ongoing all the time, right? Like, so obviously I'm not thinking about my deals talking to you, but when I get in my truck and I drive to projects, my brain's always going. When I'm sitting at practice, when my kids are practicing football or gymnastics, and I'm in the parking lot or in a chair or in the bleachers, my brain is going. So my think time is ongoing. I'm always on my phone, because as I think, I have so many projects going on now that I just tackle one at a time. And but really, we're underwriting a deal right now that we've been looking at for 9 months, and it's finally coming to fruition, and we're penciling it now. And so, like last night, for example, I went to bed thinking about it, and I promise in my sleep, I was thinking about stuff that I woke up this morning, wrote down, and said, okay, this is the concerns I still have that need to be addressed. This is what we need to make sure that we have disclosed to us before we actually move on this project. And so I'm always thinking, and I'm always strategizing, because I wouldn't call it worry, but there's concerns that you have as an investor, and you want to be wise, right? I don't function on worry. I think I function on wisdom, and I try to sit down and think things through that make sense. And I know that there's other investors that hate me for it, because I go back and I pound them on making them provide things that are going to make a project work. And it's okay, because when you're going into real estate, you're going into business, you pound hard to get what you need. And if they can't produce it for you, you don't just accept it. You walk if it doesn't make sense. But I'll make sure that I get everything I need. So I'm always thinking, I think sometimes people get distracted. I'm a daydreamer. I think I have a little bit ADD, and I'm definitely a daydreamer. I was the kid in baseball they put out in left field because I was daydreaming. And the one ball that comes to left field, I miss it because I'm in the middle of thought. And so that's me in my day. That was me in school. I'm the guy that reads the same page in a book 3 times and still doesn't know what the hell I read because my brain is going other places. So for those of you guys who are able to focus and can meditate or sit on a rock and think, you're awesome. That's good for you. I can't do that. I sit on a rock trying to think of one thing and I start daydreaming about something else. So, that's not relevant. So I find myself in deep thought always. When the time is right, my brain works. And when my brain starts working, I pay attention to my brain on the project or whatever it's focusing on, and I implement right there. I execute right in my place. This smartphone right here, I execute right in my place, right when I start thinking about what needs to be done on certain projects. And it's an all the time thing.
Got it. How does a busy guy like you running multiple projects, having multiple things going on, family, kids, all these things going on at the same time. How does a man like yourself manage his day, takes on the day and it's effective, and you use a powerful word, execution.
Yeah.
Without execution, you can have all the ideas in the world. Without execution, you have nothing, right? And especially in our business, right? If you can't execute, you have no value, right?
Yeah, you don't.
How do you manage all of that? How do you manage your time?
One thing at a time. Obviously, there's always a lot going on in my mind, but one thing at a time. When I think about everything, I get very overwhelmed, like anybody that's human, Martin. I manage one thing at a time, because that's all we can do as humans, right? You can't, if you don't manage one thing at a time, you're a mess everywhere. The problem is most people get started on one thing, they don't finish it. They start another thing, don't finish it. So once I start moving, like my phone rings, and if I get distracted, I write it down and I finish what I was working on. Then I move to the next thing. So you got to find balance, and and time management is very important. I think about my day the day before. So I think out my days, and I have a notebook here. I'm old school. This notebook, you'll see if you ever travel with me, I'll always have a notebook like this, and I'm just old school like this. This notebook is everything to me because these little tabs here, they're a method to my madness. I have little tabs in everything that needs to be done. And I use my phone to schedule stuff. But if you open up this cabinet behind me right here, Mati, I have every book right here of every one of these notebooks I've ever had right behind me, back from the 90s. And
how many notebooks for those that are not seeing us, but just hearing us? How many notebooks? He just opened up his cabinet, one of his cabinets in his office. There's probably 80 notebooks there. It looked that way. Yeah. Med notebooks.
Yeah. There's probably about that many. And I keep them all because there's people's phone numbers. There's stuff in there. I reference them. I put the dates. I put, hey, summer of 2021, fall of 2019, winter of 2015. And so I marker them up, and I know what's what. And so if I have to go back and reference something, it's in there. So I stay organized like that, and I take notes, just super simple stuff like that make a difference. This to me is gold.
Absolutely. I have something like that. It's like my Elite journal. It's similar. I like to write too. It has to be written down. I have to check it off. I have to cross it out. I have to write my goals down every day, where I'm going. Keeps me focused every day. What are the top three things I can do that's going to move, right? If you're touching everything and you're moving nothing, you're doing nothing. Yep. What are you moving? How are you executing? What are you actually moving today? You know what I mean? So my brother, I really, really appreciate you for being here. I have one more question. I want to just, the last few minutes we have here, I want to talk to you about you've been in the business such a long time. What are your projections of the market? What are you seeing? You've lived through the last recession, the real estate investor. What are you seeing? Where are the opportunities? And most importantly, brother, what are the danger zones, right? Because a man's ability to have two conflicting thoughts at the same time, hey, this is where I'm going, and this is where the danger is. You said that earlier, right? Yeah. This is where the danger is. That is what qualifies a quality thought, being able to look at both sides at the same time. So tell me, what do you see? Where are the opportunities? What are you seeing in our market? And where do you think the dangers could be? Or what do you see ahead as a developer and an investor?
So I execute on what makes sense logically, right? I don't obviously, I wish we all had a crystal ball that we could see into the future, but we don't. So my stuff is speculative, just like everybody else's out there, but it's educatedly speculative. So I look at market trends, right? I look at where we've come, what history is presented to us, and then I also look for the needs of what's happening. So where I believe the market is going is I look at this mass need for housing, right? And because the mass majority of people don't come from affluency and wealth, they come from our middle class, right? That's why they call it the middle class. We need affordable housing for them. We have a need right now for over 6.8 million homes and rooftops, homes, whatever you call it, rooftops, whether it's multifamily, single family, but we have a need to fulfill over 6.8 million homes. Now, look, you got to understand, that's just for the millennials. You think about the ongoing Gen X population. You look about the Gen Z population that's now coming into the homebuyers sector over the next decade. So Gen Z is just after the millennial population. Well, the Gen Z population in 10 years, they're going to be looking for homes too. And so when you look at the Gen Z population, you look at the millennial population, you look at the Gen X population, people in their 40s and their 50s now, we're going to have a need for over 30 million rooftops over the next 10 years. And if you look at the trends, as an American population, we build out approximately 11 million rooftops per year. I mean, we build out every decade, 11 million rooftops per decade, not per year, per decade. And so when you look at that number, in every 10 years, from 1970 to 1979, there was 11.1 million homes built. When you look at the 80s, there was 10.5 million homes built. If you look at the 90s, there was 10 million homes built. If you look at the 2000s, there was over 13 million homes built. But then you look at from 2010 till today, there was only 7 million homes built. And it's because after the recession, home builders and developers got conservative, way less homes being built. So now we're in this mass crunch of homes that need to be built and rooftops that need to be fulfilled for people just to have a place to live. And so affordable housing is where my focus is. We're building these great garden style apartments, stripping out amenities, going up against Class A, but leasing them for Class B lease rates. And it's been a great business model. We're still building homes. We're not building in the middle class. We're building in the upper middle class range, where we're not hitting the $350,000 median home price, but we're in that, just over that, at about $500,000. And we're profitable. We can make $100,000 on every home that we build doing that. So that's the market sector that we've been hitting in. And I believe that that's the market sector that will continue. That's why we're there. It's a market sector that needs to be hit. We're not competing against the track builders. We're competing, we're focusing on the empty nesters, on the new build, but on the garden style apartments that we're building, we're hitting all of the Gen Z, the Gen X, and we're hitting the millennials. And that's where I believe it's going. Now we have to caution ourselves. That's a loaded answer, because we have external circumstances. Like, we take a look at what's happening with Evergrande in China right now. Yeah, and it's like,
by the way,
yeah.
A lot of people are not aware. What do you think that's going to affect us here in the U.S.? By the way,
it will.
It's the second largest developer in the world. They're out of China. They have $300 billion in debt, and they're about to not be able to make payments on their debt. So they're about to, either they get saved by the Chinese government or they blow up. So, my brother, go ahead. Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah. So like Lehman Brothers collapsed on us in 2008, right? This is China's Lehman Brothers collapse, if it happens, right? So they're trying to see if they can get bailouts by the federal government. Beijing says that there's no way they'll let them fall. But the Chinese government says there's no way they're going to bail them out. So we'll see who wins, Beijing or the Chinese government. But we'll see what happens. There's a lot that'll happen, because Hong Kong is one of the biggest investors of Evergrande, and it's one of those things where if you have somebody that has 2% market share of the entire Chinese population, that's huge. And that trickle effect nationwide will affect us. There's US companies that have invested in that brand. There's our federal government, so people don't look at that stuff deep enough to understand that there is side effects, because I say when it's a loaded answer, it's because there's circumstances that even though there's a need, doesn't mean that need is going to get fulfilled in a perfect scenario, right? There's economic circumstances that are external that are affected, that can slow that growth down even more. And there may be even more of a need for it. And even though there's that need, if banks and the financial institutions are affected and they put parameters on lending, then it slows down growth for people like Martin, for myself, and for you guys as investors as well. That doesn't mean that it's not going to come back. It just means that there's going to be a bump in the road. And so we have to figure out what's the best bump in the road to be able to encounter if and when that type of stuff that's external happens to us. And so I sit back and say, okay, there's going to be a market for that. And if a bump in the road hits, that need isn't just going to go away. I just have to be able to weather that storm. And so what I mean by weathering that storm is, can I lease it? Can I sell it at a discounted price? Can I hold it? What is my worst case scenario? And I just feel that affordable housing is that worst case scenario. And there's a need so deep for it that even if there's a financial interruption in our market, people still need rooftops, but they're going to need affordable rooftops. And so if I can fulfill that, I will successfully go over that bump, even if I get slowed down on my development end because banks aren't funding. So that's where I believe the world's going. I do believe there's external circumstances that are going to correct the market for us. We just have to be prepared for them. And that's just one example.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, brother. Again, I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Your knowledge, really enlightening for me. And I'm sure my listeners have also taken a ton of value. If people wanted to connect with you, I know, Jerome, that you have an event coming up here shortly. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? You want to mention it a little bit? I'm also going to put it in the show notes so people can reach out and connect with you. So go ahead and tell us about this event that you're going to have. Tell us what it's about. It's in Vegas, correct?
It is. It's November 5th, 6th, and 7th. It's called Real Estate Domination. It's our third annual. We're hosting it at the MGM Grand Garden and Casino. We're expecting a few hundred people live, and we have about 1,000 people signed up virtually right now. And so it's going to be a great event. Ty Lopez is going to be there. He's one of my business partners. We do a lot of real estate transactions together in Puerto Rico, Virginia, and in Chicago. We have some other areas that we're penetrating right now in the French Riviera, internationally. And then Cody Sperber, if you guys are familiar with him, the clever investor, he's going to be there. We have a great lineup. We have Todd Alt, my buddy Todd, just hit billionaire status this year. Took 3 of his companies public over the last few years. He's killing it. He's going to be there. People part of the inner circle. He's going to treat everybody to dinner. And then it's going to be a great event. We had a great lineup. Some of my business partners, we're going to be unfolding and unveiling what we're doing in affordable housing, buying land, building houses, and deploying it tax deferred or tax free into multi-unit real estate. You're going to learn tax strategies. There's a ton of information that's going to be available. But November 5th, 6th, and 7th, Las Vegas, Nevada. You guys won't want to miss it. You guys will want to be down there.
What's the website for people to sign up for?
realestatedomination.co.co, realestatedomination.co. We'll put in the show notes, and Martin, I'll go ahead and text it over to you when we're done here today.
Perfect. So that's, guys, realestatedomination.co. And I want to add something to what Jerome just said. Guys, I'm always talking to you guys about getting around the right people. Okay, that is so important. Getting around the right people, listening. Jerome touched on this. Who you listen to, what you let in your ears, what you see, who you watch, and who you're listening to, who you're watching on YouTube or wherever you watch, is absolutely vital to your success, guys. Who you surround yourself with. You take the top 5 people you surround yourself with, right? And you are not going to you're not going to make $1 over that average of the top 5 people you surround yourself with. So you have to put yourself around these type of people. These are the type of events that I go to. These are the type of events that I also host. These are the type of events that Jerome goes to and that he also hosts. And this is the places where you level up. Guys, I'm telling you, places like this is where you level up. That's where you find your potential next partners. That's where you learn how to do high level stuff like Jerome is doing. That's where you learn about money. Jerome, we talked about money earlier. We talked about how it's a muscle, right? That learning as you make more money, learning how and what to do with your money. You could get lucky and get rich, but you can't get lucky and stay rich, right? So
that's right.
This is where you build that muscle around these people, around Jerome, around Ty Lopez, around these high-level thinkers, around these high-level operators, high-level business people. Guys, if you have the opportunity to get out there, I am gonna totally encourage you to go to the realestatedomination.co, check it out, even if you have it virtually out here, right, brother?
We do. We sure do. Yeah, we do have it virtually, and virtually is free, and virtually is great. You're gonna learn a ton of information, but just like Martin said, there's nothing like being there in person. The relationships, priceless.
The room, there's nothing like the room. You know, I had that option with the event I just did, the 4-day MBA with Keith, and I could do it virtually. I was like, no, I'm gonna fly there. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna be in the room. I'm gonna be like, there is not, for me at least, for me, I gotta be around the room, the network, the people. That's how I meet people like Jerome. That's where, guys. Listen, a lot of people ask me, Jerome, a lot of times they're like, well, how do I change my circle? Well, how do I, my friends are all, you know, they're all employees or they're all there. I want to be an entrepreneur. This is how, guys. This is it.
That's it.
Show up, because you know what? That's where we all are. Jerome, isn't that where you're going to be?
Yep, that's exactly. Yep, and that's where I just came from. You know, I was at the Driven event, 2,000 people. I didn't need to be there, but I needed to be there. Like, I didn't need to be there. I mean, we're already doing what we're doing, but I needed to be there. The contacts and the networking, just priceless, you know? So I still do it to this day.
Absolutely. So, brother, thank you so much for being here. It has been my pleasure, my honor to have you here, my friend. And I look forward to having you back here soon when this thing corrects, because it's gonna correct. I don't believe in what's happening right now. There's gonna be a bump in the road, like you said. There always is, right? History tells us that. Like, we're both old enough to know that, hey, man, there's something that's gonna correct. It's something that's gonna slow this down. What it is, we don't know, right? Our strategy, though, how protected we are, how insulated we are, can we pivot? What do we have in place to protect ourselves? Is what matters. So I'm going to be looking. I'm actually looking forward to when that time happens. It's not if, but when that correction happens. Bringing you back on, getting in your world a little bit, talking to you about, you know, high level thinking stuff and how you're seeing and how you're viewing it and how you're moving. My brother, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Martin, thank you, bro. Really appreciate you as well. Thank you for allowing me to be on your show.